But what about the way that these stories are told and put together? Here's composition. Now this is probably the biggest difference between the two stories. The movie's version of the story is actually pretty faithful to the book, but the way the two stories are presented differs. As we already mentioned, the book is narrated for us by an older, wiser Scout Finch, telling us stories from her childhood. And really, that's exactly what the book is, a collection of stories. Obviously the Tom Robinson and Boo Radley plots are the big ones, but there are a lot of other little stories in there as well. The movie focused more on the two big plots of the book, the Boo Radley story and the court case of Tom Robinson. It's not so much the culmination of 3 years worth of stories from Scout's childhood as it is just these two. So there's a little more focus and the pacing is a little bit faster in the movie. But the movie misses out on a lot by telling the story in this way. The most obvious thing missing is that wonderful style of writing, which sounds like a combination of an old woman telling stories to her grandchildren and a lawyer giving a closing argument in the courtroom. Now, to the movie's credit, it does make it pretty obvious that the story is being told from Scout's point of view. But the movie has a freedom that the book doesn't. It can break away from Scout for a while and show us other aspects of the story. So the fact that Scout doesn't know about the Tom Robinson trial doesn't mean that we don't know about the Tom Robinson trial. There are a lot of moments in the book where an important plot point happens away from Scout because, by and large, the events are not happening to her, and so she has to hear about it later from someone else. The movie can just show us these important plot points, which helps move the story along a little bit better. But I think the overall message of being able to look at the world from someone else's point of view is stronger when you consider all of Scout's stories, all of her experiences, and all of the people that she has encountered in the 3 years that our story takes place. At the end, when she's considering this point, she brings all of these things together in her head. Plus, the fact that this is supposed to be a collection of several stories means that scenes like Atticus shooting the rabid dog or Scout dressing up as a ham for the school play don't seem quite as out of place in the book as they do in the movie. The book's version of the story might not be as focused and streamlined, but ultimately I think that's what I like about it. It takes its time and tells these stories in the way that they ought to be told. But can the images from the movie compete with the descriptions from the book? Let's take a look at imagery. Now, I realize that there's nothing terribly complex or innovative about the imagery in the movie. Everything is pretty simple and straightforward, though I do really like this opening credits sequence, and the music is especially good. Also, I'm not entirely sure whether it was a creative decision to make the film in black and white. I know that color film existed back then, but it may have been too expensive for this production. However, if it was a creative decision, it's actually a pretty good idea for this film. Not only are we looking into someone's past, but we're also dealing with issues of seeing things in black and white, and not just from a race perspective. It certainly reflects Scout's early childish tendencies to see people as either one thing or the other, either good or bad, smart or stupid, and so on. But it could have just as easily been a budget decision, I suppose. Either way, the simplicity of the imagery is exactly what this story should have, reflecting the simple and straightforward way that Scout tells her story in the book. But the book really captures that small-town atmosphere, showing us many different types of people who all have that kind of small-town stubbornness and sureness of their own opinions. And there are a lot of things mentioned in the book, like the fact that it's socially impolite to have your door closed on a day when the weather doesn't require it. And this really gives us the feel of living in a tiny southern town in the Depression years. Also, the fact that it is so ungodly hot is something that we really feel in the novel in the way that we never quite do in the movie. But really, it only makes sense that the atmosphere should be this good, because this is a book about experiences, and we're getting the combined perspectives of the child Scout and the adult Scout, making for a very rich and yet very real reading experience. In addition, we get a good sense of the passage of time and the growth of the two Finch children. The book takes place over a period of 3 years. The movie, I think, just takes place over one summer, and I think stretching it out over 3 years works a lot better for this story. While the movie had some nice images, the book really captured the atmosphere of this story, and made us feel like we were really experiencing these events, which in my opinion means that it had the better imagery.